Oh yeah, everybody always says like, oh, girls marry their father and boys marry their mother, and
Yeah, something
it's a
like
little
that.
too simplistic.
Right, it's a little more complicated than that.
Yeah,
So
way more complicated. I wouldn't say a little.
so let's look at narcissism, because I think this is an interesting one. We had this client, Amy, and Amy didn't have a narcissistic parent. Neither her father nor her mother were narcissists. There was no narcissism in her family.
Nope.
And yet,
Divorced from a narcissist.
right, when we met Amy, she was divorced from a narcissist.
And he just broke off an engagement
Just
to
broke,
another.
exactly. So how does that work? I mean, because that's not, there's no narcissism here, but there's narcissism.
Well, that's why when you say it's a little bit more complicated than that, I was like, no, dude, don't dumb it down, because it's a lot more complicated than that. Because people are a lot more complex, and our psyche is a lot more complex. And the thing that interests me the most about this is you would think that Amy, we're calling her Amy to save the guilty. Amy, you would think that you would just say, oh, she has a problem attracting
narcissists.
Right.
It's like she has a narcissist magnet inside of her.
Yeah.
That brings narcissists to her.
It's
but why
kind of
would
a
she
weird
have
thing.
why would she have a narcissist magnet? Because she wasn't raised by narcissists.
She wasn't. But here's the other thing that I think is interesting, because I think people think about it backwards. All of you listening, you can share, please, in the chat box if you have some comments on this. But everybody thinks I'm attracting. Why am I attracting X kind of person?
Exactly.
This kind of person, that kind of person. The guys, why do I always end up in the friend zone? The gals, why do I always end up with somebody emotionally unavailable?
Yeah, I think it comes from this idea of the law of attraction.
Oh, attracting in.
Right, because the law of attraction says that you're a magnet for what's going on inside of you. You're a magnet for that energy that you're carrying around, and you pull in other things like that energy. And so, according to the law of attraction, you would have a narcissist magnet inside of you.
Right. And I'm going to, we're going to go out on a limb. I mean, we know a lot of people that work with the law of attraction, and they're great people, and they do a lot of great work, and they help a lot of people. When it comes to love, though, I think people think about it backwards.
Yeah.
This idea of attracting in a narcissist of this or that or whatever is actually backwards, because whoever's listening to us right now, you are attracted to whatever is familiar.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say that again because I think it's so important, because today we're talking about false attraction. A false attraction. It's like a false positive.
Well, what we like to call false attraction syndrome.
Yes, false attraction syndrome.
Yeah.
So, hi everybody, I'm Orna Walters.
And I'm Matthew Walters, and this is Love Intervention. We are here to intervene in your love life to get you off the path towards heartbreak and frustration, and on the path towards the long-lasting, soul-satisfying love you desire.
And deserve. I want to tell you, each one of you listening to this right now, you deserve that long-lasting love that's been elusive to you for some, elusive for you for some reason or another. Mm-hmm. So let's get the record straight, right? This whole idea of attracting in the wrong kind of person, let that go. You don't have some kind of magnet drawing in a particular kind of person. However, you have a filter in your mind. That's right, it's a filter. And it's screening when you're out in the world. And guess what it's looking for and highlighting for you out in the world, like a light right above it. That's the light.
Yeah. It's screening for and highlighting what feels familiar.
Or what is familiar.
Yeah.
So the thing about attracting in the same kind of person that you don't want is I can swear, right? It's our show.
Yeah.
It's fucking frustrating. It's fucking frustrating. I've been there. Who else has been there? Raise your hand. Raise your hand if you've been there. And even if we can't see you, I don't care. I want you to understand, all is not lost. You are not somehow destined to forever attract in this kind of person. We say X kind of person, like fill in the X, like in algebra.
Or as we say, destined to be attracted to this kind of person.
Yeah, that doesn't exist either. So if you think about, I'll use myself as an example, because I'm not going to change my name to protect the guilty. I'm guilty. I'm guilty of this syndrome because most of you know, and maybe if you're joining us for the first time, you don't know, but I am a survivor of domestic violence. And I grew up in a home filled with abuse, emotional abuse and physical abuse. And I knew it was a crazy house. It was the house of chaos that I spent a lot of time at Neighbors. I rotated so nobody would get too tired of me. And in my 20s, my late 20s, mid 20s, I ended up with a guy who beat me. He tried to kill me on New Year's Eve of 1994. And as we all put up our Christmas trees and our menorahs and celebrate Kwanzaa and all that good stuff, we get ready to change the calendar. I'm always thinking, how many years has it been since this really traumatic event? And I know that my story, when I share it, is really traumatic and people think, oh, I can't relate to this. Don't click off. Because if I can break this toxic pattern, you better believe you can break whatever the hell other little nothing that's going on with you. Because the truth is, if your GPS for love that's filtering that little thing inside of you that's filtering for what's familiar, if that's just a little bit off, you're not going to end up at your destination, just like your actual GPS in your car. Right?
Yeah. So let's talk about those GPS settings.
Okay.
Because where do they come from? I mean, it's like,
well, let's go back to Amy.
Well, yeah, it's not like somebody sat down and said, well, I want to be, what are the GPS for narcissists? Let me put those in. Boop, beep, beep, boop, boop, boop. Right? Oh, narcissist, beep. Right? It's not like anybody ever did that.
Can you do that? You have to do it again.
Beep, 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 beep.
That's kind of why I married him, because if I ask him to do it again, he'll always do it again. That's
so
like
it's
the best
not
thing
like
ever.
you sat down like as a late teenager in your early 20s and said, these are the kind of people that I'm going to be attracted to.
That are going to make me feel frustrated.
I always think that's so interesting. Everybody says they have a type. I have a type, right? These are the people I choose to be attracted to. You didn't choose to be attracted to anybody. You never made that choice.
It wasn't happening up here.
It wasn't happening up here. It happened a long time ago. It happened in your early childhood when you were just a little child and you had experiences. And in those experiences, you said, I want more of this and I want less of that. And so what has to be true for me to get these things that I need?
Yes.
It's a little more complicated than that. I'm kind of dumbing it down just for fun. So when you were a little child in your family of origin, the dynamics in that family set the course for your adult relationships. It's not that you're blaming this on your parents, because that's kind of lame. And if you're over 30, you can't blame it on your parents anymore. It's time to take responsibility. However, the way your parents raised you and the way you were loved by them sort of set these coordinates in place. Now let's talk about Amy. Amy and her attraction to narcissists, even though she wasn't raised by a narcissist.
I mean, here's the thing. She reached out to us and she said, I am divorced from a guy I know is a narcissist, and I just broke off an engagement and reached out to you immediately because I just realized he is also a narcissist. So what is going on?
Mm-hmm.
So the thing about this particular woman, we found this fascinating because she comes from a pretty, I'm going to put normal in quotes. I mean, every family sort of has their dysfunction, but normal in the sense like Matthew's family, very normal. I love juxtaposing my story against his because normal, abnormal, right? Normal guy, abnormal me. And Amy, her family was in that sort of normal category.
Yeah, the parents weren't divorced or anything. They were happily married.
But here's the interesting thing. Her dad had a heart condition. And with this particular heart condition, he was constantly in the hospital. And from the time she was like 4, 5, 6 years old, he was in and out of the hospital. And every time he was in the hospital, everybody was on high alert because, oh my gosh, dad might die. That's a lot of stress. And there were particular things that she connected in her memory about all that time in the hospital.
Yeah.
Like there were Rice Krispie treats. Remember, she had this thing about, I don't want to eat Rice Krispie treats. It remind me of when my dad was in the hospital.
Yeah.
Her mom would buy those for her and her brother as like a treat because it was so stressful. So she could never eat those as a grown up. It's like really depressed her. Even seeing them kind of triggered this. So what was interesting, this is where you take responsibility and stop blaming your parents, because you assign meaning to all of the events of the past. So that chaos, that being on pins and needles, it's kind of the way kids are when they're raised by a narcissist. You don't know what's going to happen.
Right. You don't know if love's going to be taken away from you or if love's going to be given to you today.
Yep. And so that high alert signal of, oh my gosh, dad might die today. Oh my gosh, dad might die today. Oh my gosh, dad might die today. That sort of set this familiarity. And because she loved her dad, when she had that discomfort of, I don't know what kind of day this is going to be, that's what created the sensation. She mistook mistook as attraction. That's what we call a false attraction or a
Yes.
false positive.
So let's talk about it this way. We've said that your subconscious sends you out the this is familiar signal, and that familiar is loud, and so it feels like excitement. Well, have you
Oh.
ever been to a motivational talk or been to, see somebody, one of these personal growth people, or even read a book about it, even seen a meme about it, right?
Yeah.
In personal growth, one of the things is that take your fear and turn it into excitement,
Yeah.
because it is the same sensation physiologically in the body when you're feeling fear and when you're feeling excitement. So what happens? Your heart rate picks up, your adrenaline kicks in, your breath gets a little shallow, your palms might get a little sweaty. So we start to have these physical sensations that say something important is happening. It's either exciting or it's scary. And we always love to use the analogy of a roller coaster because Orna loves roller coasters.
I do.
And we're always standing in the front because we have to sit in the front seat.
So we're waiting in that longer line to get
So
the front car.
You're in the front seat and you're starting to feel that your heart rate's starting to pick up, your breath's getting a little shallow, your adrenaline's kicking in, and you're either saying to yourself,
this is so great, I can't wait.
Or, oh my God, what am I doing here? Where is the chicken exit? I need to get out of here. So it, like the motivational speaker says, it is that internal dialogue that helps you decide whether that is fear or excitement. So if you just turn the fear and say, no, this is exciting, then you can, move through your fear. However, when we're talking about false attractions, because that's what we're talking about today.
False attraction syndrome.
False attraction syndrome. When we're talking about false attractions, you're actually mistaking a fear signal and thinking that it's excitement.
And I think that makes it a little too red hot, because remember, it's not always red hot. It could be orange, it could be yellow, but the sensation is high for you because of the familiarity.
Well, let me share a different example.
It's the familiarity, though, that I want them to understand.
I totally get it.
I know you have the example, but hang on a second.
Okay.
I have something to say.
No, go ahead, say it.
So I think about me, and I think about that guy, and I think about when we first met, and I think, oh my gosh, it was like I was a bee and he was a honeypot. I mean, I zoom. I couldn't resist that guy. Like, he was irresistible. Plus, he was hot. So, I mean, there's that too. But he was hot for me in that ding, like all the bells and whistles were going off. Or as my best friend likes to say when she has that signal, she says, he lights up all the colors, right? He lights up all the colors. And I was like drawn to him, and whoosh, it was so intense. And that's why you often, if you're reading our blog, that's at loveonpurpose.com. We have a lot of articles that say beware of instant intimacy. And I think one of the reasons we rush to that instant intimacy is because when all the colors light up, when this happens to us, we think, oh my gosh, this must be my person, because it's so intense. And that's when you have to train yourself to instead put up the yellow caution. I'm trying to make a triangle. Yeah, I am sort of making, there you go, triangle, right? That little yellow triangle with the exclamation point inside, caution, slow down.
So, thank you for that. That's awesome. So let's give another example. So, for example, me, right? I grew up in a family. I was youngest of 5, and typical Midwestern family where they don't express emotion very well. They're good at anger, but the rest not so good at. Really, the only way you knew anybody in my family liked you was if they made fun of you, because that was their way of saying I like you. In fact, when Orna met my family, I warned her. I said, when you first get there, nobody's going to know what to say to you.
Yep.
Because they don't know you well enough to make fun of you. So they're probably not going to talk to you that much.
And they didn't.
Until, a few months later, a year later, they got to know her, and then suddenly everybody's teasing Orna.
And then I know that I'm feeling love, because that's how they express love.
So being the youngest of 5 in this environment, I did not know this when I was born into this environment. I didn't know that teasing meant love. I just knew that I was teased. And part of the internalization that I took on being teased all the time was that there was something wrong with me. And so love on some level felt like rejection.
It's always so sad when you see that. I think of little Matt, and I think, oh my gosh.
You're so sweet.
I just want to scoop him up and tell him, oh, babe, you're so awesome. Because you are. You're so awesome.
You're very sweet. Thank you. So, as an adult, I was very attracted to rejection. subtle rejection, mostly because it wasn't overt in my family. It was teasing. It wasn't like, oh, you're such an idiot. It was more like, oh, tease, 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 So, for example, I met this woman and we had like this instant connection. In fact, she was a little psychic. Well, she was more than a little psychic. And she like downloads this whole reading for me. And I fell in love with her in that moment on this long night at her place. Skinny dipping, a lot of fun. Anyway, I felt pretty hard. And literally 2 weeks in, she goes, I'm going to end this now because if I let it continue, I know it's going to hurt that much more for you. So I'm just going to end it now. See, she was never in it like I was in it. And
that's like a rip off the Band-Aid.
A total rip off the Band-Aid.
But fast,
that was like the greatest gift anybody could ever give me, because that was like the beginning of me going, okay,
what's going on?
I got to look at this pattern of my relationships, because this, not so good. And I could even, go through other relationships and see that example of where that subtle rejection was there. I dated this other woman who used to say things to me like, if you worked out a lot, I mean, you have the body, you could really, you look great.
That's so mean. I like that. That's so mean.
That's interesting. Thanks, I guess, for sharing that.
That's like when we were out the other night and that person we know says, like, walked right past me.
Yeah.
And I was like, hello, hey. And he's like, oh my gosh, Orna, I didn't recognize you. You're so skinny. And then that's it. Just kept walking.
Yeah.
I was like,
yeah.
Is that a compliment? I think it was a backhanded compliment.
I don't think that was.
Yeah. I'm just saying that when we have these instant connection things, that we are programmed through the myth of accidental love.
Right.
That, oh my gosh, this must be my person.
The myth of soulmate love, right?
Yeah, but I mean.
Oh, it's my other half. It feels so familiar and comfortable and
I don't like it when
exciting.
You say the myth of soulmates. Can we say the myth of twin flames?
Sure, the myth of twin flames. That's a better way to say it.
Because, look, soulmates are two people that continue to choose each other.
I agree.
I mean, we know this. And we that's our definition. Once upon a time, Google crowned us with the definition online for a soulmate relationship. And that's what we said it was. Two people who are, are in it to win it, and they're attracted to each other, and they choose each other over and over and over and over again. And it has to be a choice that go both ways. But when you have this idea that, you're going to find this person that completes you, that ends up being a codependent relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to go down the rabbit hole of all the other things that those things can be, because today we're talking about false attraction syndrome.
Bum, bum, bum.
And I'm Orna Walters.
I'm Matthew Walters, and this is Love Intervention. We're here to intervene in your love life to get you off the path of frustrating heartbreak and on the path of long-lasting, soul-satisfying love. Because we know it's possible for you because we created it. We weren't high school sweethearts. Nope. We didn't meet in college.
Nope.
We didn't even meet till we were 40.
Over 40 for me.
And everybody was like, oh, those two, they're hopeless. They're never getting married.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I didn't even know if I wanted to get married for a lot of it, because that seems scary.
Yeah.
So if you're on Facebook, give us a thumbs up, a heart, or something, react, tell us something. If you have questions there, you can put them right there in the chat, in the comments. And our team will port them over. If you're watching here on the live stream in Vimeo, we can see your questions. They're not going to be ported from anywhere. If you're watching on YouTube, click the little bell, subscribe, and you can put questions there. This is an AMA, and Ask Me Anything, Ask Us Anything. Our topic tonight is just to grease the wheels, to have you think a little differently about love, because our goal is to bust this ridiculous myth that one day you're going to find this unicorn of a person and they'll be perfect for you, and you'll never have to express a need or a want, because there'll be some mental telepathy that lasts forever, and you'll always be in bliss, and there'll be no problems.
You'll never have problems again.
You'll never have problems again. My voice is a little rough, so I'm not going to sing anymore. And I'm sure our audience is grateful for that. Thank you for joining us. We are going to address your questions, but I just want to get you thinking about this idea of false attraction. If you've ever had one of these sort of like instant connections and it's still going strong like 20, 30, 40, 50 years later, can you let us know? Because I think none of those last.
Right.
But I bet they're not even here if that's true.
No, why would they be? Because they're happily married.
Yeah, Yeah, I
But
mean,
they're rare. It's just not the way it works.
yeah.
I mean, everybody always gives that example. Well, what about my
So and so.
grandparents? They
Oh
met
yeah,
in
but it was
high
a different
school
time.
and
Their
they've been madly in
expectation
love their
level,
whole
but
lives.
their expectation level was at a completely different place.
It's true.
Their
They
expectation
weren't
level,
expecting soulmate love.
nope. They had no expectation of that. They knew it was like, they probably married somebody that the family knew or that the family kind of had a hand in selecting, probably somebody from their town. And they may have had a little bit of a choice, but not much. And it's just kind of one of these things. So the expectation level that we go into in romantic relationship now is so vastly different than it was even 2 generations ago.
Yeah.
And look, the stats prove that we don't get better at relationship just by switching out your partner. I mean, first marriages have a 48% divorce rate. I know everyone rounds up. We're a little picky with details here. So it's 48% on first marriages in North America. By the time you get to third marriage, divorce skyrockets to 75%.
Yeah.
So if we got better at relationship by switching out a partner, that number would be drastically going down, not skyrocketing.
The number's a little all over the place too, because for a while there, the number was getting better. People were waiting a bit to get married, and so marriages were lasting. And then COVID hit, and a lot of people suddenly spent a lot of time together and went, "Oh,
you're not for me after all.
I don't like you so much on a day-to-day basis.
Few hours
at night,
at the end of the
few hours
day,
at night,
sure.
and in the morning, I can live with that. But all day long, forget it."
Yeah.
And so there've been a lot of, I think divorces are probably on an upswing right now. We've definitely seen it.
This year, we've seen it with people we know.
Yeah.
Shocked by some of the people
Yeah.
that we've seen split up and not make it, and that's why we're here. We're here to help you make it. But not only that, we're here to help you make that right selection. Because when we think that everything's happening by accident, and you aren't choosing who you have the spark of attraction with, but you can have an internal shift that will ultimately create that outer experience change. And so if you're somebody who's interested in having this, I want to send you somewhere, because we still have a few spots left in a program that I'm going to say, take a few whacks at the system. You want to explain what I typed?
So Love on Purpose Mentoring is a small group coaching program. It is something where everybody gets 2 opportunities in the love seat. And in the love seat, we really get to dig in with you. And our job during Love on Purpose Mentoring is to give you one big shift in your life.
It's like a big breakthrough. So if you're stuck attracting in the same kind of person, the ex person, whatever, right? The unavailable guy, the unemotionally unavailable, or the cheater, or the narcissist, or the toxic person, or you're a guy and you're, oh my gosh, maybe you're drawing in the crazy chick. You think of it that way, right? Oh my gosh, she's crazy. The sex was great, but oh no, I don't want to be near that kind of person again.
Too much drama.
Or maybe you always end up in the friend zone, right? Guys end up always reaching out, just like I keep ending up as the friend. Or maybe you feel like you are not enough. Either gender has that sort of syndrome, like not enough, or you have to somehow prove your value or your worth. You're constantly striving to prove your value in a relationship. So if any of these things are clicking with you, where you've recognized the pattern, and look, even if you don't know your pattern, you're like, I'm not sure what my pattern is, go to Love on Purpose Mentoring, because we are going to start in January. And we only have a few spots left. We're doing a second round because in the first round, we had people who wanted to join. It was sold out. So we put those people in the next round, and you can join us. But it isn't a soup to nuts thing. It's really just to take a few whacks at that system and give you that big breakthrough, so you can see that once you no longer have that system, and it's not cognitive. I want you to understand we have active meditation processes when you're in the love seat. So that gives you a new experience. And when you have experiential learning, you then can't unhave it. It's like riding a bike. So once you have that new experience and you physiologically experience it, you can't then unhave it. So come have that with us if you're looking for a real transformation. It doesn't exist anywhere else because we created those active meditation processes. All right, we have a lot of questions that are piling up today. I know our topic is false attraction syndrome. You can certainly ask us about that, but you can ask us about anything else.
Yeah.
Do you know whose question you'd like to start with?
We got a guy who jumped in here, Les. And Les says, I like to keep things chill in my life. I don't like drama. So why do I keep ending up with girls who create so much drama?
Oh, look, we were just talking about that. I think this is funny. Way back, I was probably late 20s, early 30s.
Hmm.
And I was in this particular class, and there was this gal I knew, and
Hmm.
she was a friend, but I could tell she was like a nut job when it came to relationships. I mean, I don't mean to say that in a judgmental way, but she just was exactly what he's talking about: drama, 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 drama. As a friend, she was great, and I remember she moved to New York, and she reached out to me. At the time, I was working in the music industry, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, I know you're the only person I know to reach out to that works in the music
Yeah.
industry. I want to go to this big concert. Like the tickets were hard to get." And I basically reached out to a friend of mine in New York, and I said, "Hey, I have this friend. She really wants to go to this insert big band name concert." And he says, "Is she hot?" And I said, "Oh, she's hot." And but she's crazy. And he goes, "But she's hot." I was like, and it always makes me laugh
Right.
because that's probably where Les started.
Right.
It's like, oh, is she hot? And
Is
that's
she
all they
hot?
care about,
Right.
right?
Right.
But then you have drama, 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 less. This particular syndrome, this false attraction syndrome for you, this could be that there was a lot of drama in your childhood, or maybe your mother suffered from something.
Or maybe your father was a rageaholic or an unreasonable person, and
Yeah.
you
So the
never knew what you were going to
reaction
get.
to that could be that seems attractive, that unpredictability has an attraction for you. But the other side of it is, because you say you like to keep things pretty chill, um, I remember having this guy come to my office for a hand analysis session. If you don't know that I'm a hand analyst, we'll talk about it another time. But I've been reading scientific non-predictive palmistry, been doing those readings since the 90s. I
Yeah.
studied it years ago to read potential boyfriends. And I remember this guy shows up at my office for a reading, and he looks pretty tough. I mean, he's got tattoos and he's buff, and I think
Interesting. He came for a hand reading.
He came for a hand analysis session,
Right.
and he's wearing like the gold chain thing, and,
Right.
and I was like, and I thought, nobody's coming for a hand reading to hurt me, you know what I mean? So I let him in, and I'm making handprints of his hands and fingerprints, and I get him a drink and some snacks while I make his hand chart. And I don't usually start about what's going on in somebody's like love life, but it just was jumping out at me. And so the first thing I said to him was, I don't usually start here, but it seems like you date the crazy girls, right? Like all the wackos, like, wow, that's a lot of drama. And his whole face dropped. He goes, "How did you know?" And what was interesting is this guy was so sweet. Like he had the biggest heart, and he was just like a sweetie pie, like a teddy bear. Like there's all this gushy, warm, yum. He just wanted to love somebody that loved him back,
Right.
And all that outside stuff was like armor. But he was super chill, and he was kind of like, he didn't really respond to things like, like I'm sure his heartbeat was like this, but his emotional exterior was just like a shell. It just was steady. And I said, those women are showing up for you because you're supposed to feel something.
That's good.
And so I wonder if that's also what's going on with Les. So it could be something like that.
Right.
Or it could be this false attraction syndrome that we've been talking about. But when we resist, right, what we resist persists. So for those guys, if you're out there and you're like, why am I constantly attracting all this drama into my life? It's because we are spirits as human beings, and we are in this physical body. We are spirit. But in this physical 3D realm, our emotions are our compass. And so you're supposed to feel your emotions. And when you try to flatline everything with a suit of armor, you'll find yourself constantly pulled into the hurricane of drama.
Yeah, exactly. And to get through the armor, you need a lot of drama.
Yeah.
All right, Les, let us know if that makes any sense
I wonder,
to you.
because somebody commented while we were typing, so I'm just curious if Les popped in there again.
He did not.
He did not. Okay. All right.
Well, there is a comment, though. Somebody says, how is drama defined? Well, drama is emotional chaos, right? It's where things suddenly boom and they change, and you're like, what's going on? What happened? Right? That there's emotional chaos. There's energy that's all over the place. It doesn't seem grounded. It doesn't seem reasonable. It doesn't seem calm, right? That there's like a storm
There's a constant storm brewing.
And it could be
Yeah.
that there's anger. It could be that there's insecurity and neediness. I mean, it could show up in different ways, the drama.
Yeah.
Some people are yellers, some people are criers, but it's,
I-
ultimately it's where they're emotional. There's no emotional regulation happening.
Yes. It's like, oh, like, it's heightened. Everything is like emotional high stakes.
Exactly.
I think
And
that's
drama
a good-
could be like, oh my God, this is so great. You're my person. This is so amazing. I love
That
you
could
so
be part
much.
of it too.
Right? And it comes on really intense
And
like
then
that. And then it's like,
Yeah.
oh, I can't believe you. What? You get out of my life. I hate you. Right? That
Boom,
it's like
boom.
all over the place.
Yep.
That's
Inconsistent.
that's
Big
that's how
big
we
highs.
define drama.
Big highs, big lows. Big highs, big lows. But I think this is interesting. Somebody typed in, I would just love to meet guys to practice with. That's your pattern. You're saying I want to practice and you don't even have anyone to practice with. And that's because somehow you're filtering and you end up with zero options to practice with. You're doing that. And if you want to stop doing that, go to www.loveonpurposementoring.com. That's an easy one. We can break that system up.
What's really funny
You're
is
filtering down to nothing. Do you get it? If you really wanted to just practice, it wouldn't matter who you went on dates with. So just go out and go on dates and go practice
with anybody.
If that's what you really want to do. But you're filtering down to you're filtering down to no options, right? It's like if you were holding a job interview for an intern at a big corporate entity and you just rejected every resume. Like, nope, filtering down to nothing, right? That's an easy pattern to break.
Yeah, we meet a lot of people who, are interested in doing the work. Maybe they have false attraction, maybe that's their issue, but maybe it's different. But they always have some version of, well, I just don't feel like I don't have any desire for a relationship anymore. I just think I should just be alone. Or in some way, it's like their energy is all shut down around love and relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because they've had enough experiences that it no longer feels open or hopeful or interesting to them.
Or safe even.
And I want to say to you, if that's how you feel about it, if you're just like, I don't even know. Well, one, you're here, so part of you wants it. Otherwise, you wouldn't be listening to us.
That's true.
But if there's a part of you that say is that you can shift that. If you shift that, it'll shift everything, right? You can reclaim your hope. You can stop minimizing your expectations based on your past experiences, and you can start saying, hey, maybe there is something more available to me than what I think or what I see or what I experience. And that's what we want you to get. When we say one big shift, that could be the shift.
Yeah, one big breakthrough. That's what we're delivering in Love on Purpose Mentoring. We have a lot of other programs that are like soup to nuts. This is about getting one big breakthrough. So if you're stuck, whatever your pattern is, whether you identify the pattern or not, that's the delivery for Love on Purpose Mentoring. So all the details are there. I don't want to spend a lot of time today on it, so you can just check it out there. If you have any questions, you can always email us. I want to take Michelle's question here.
Okay.
She says, she jumped in pretty early with this, so I think it's only fair we answer that question. She says, the guy I like doesn't seem interested in me. It doesn't matter what I do. He just isn't responding how I would like. It's confusing because he originally asked for my number when we met. I'm tired of chasing guys, but I know it could be great with him. How do I get him to respond? The short answer is you don't.
Right.
You can't make somebody do anything. But what you can do is take complete control of your own self. You have control only of what you feel, think, and do. You have zero control over what someone else thinks, feels, and does. So trying to get something, a response or love from someone because you have a feeling, that means you have some inner this inner GPS problem, right? It's like
it's definitely a false attraction syndrome.
You're attached to somebody who's literally showing you day after day after day they're not interested in you. But you somehow, because they're not interested in you, you're like, oh, this must be my person, right? It's almost a deeper connection, more so than what you were saying as far as chasing rejection. It's kind of a similar
It's
idea.
being attracted to emotionally unavailable men. It's really that idea that distance.
I don't know that this is the emotionally unavailable. This person
Well,
He
it's
asked for a
unavailable.
number to be.
It's unavailable is unavailable.
Okay, I
Whether
hear
it's
you.
emotionally unavailable
Or
or
literally not
unavailable,
interested.
it's the same thing.
Okay.
Because it is that unavailability and that need to get a response, that need to get them to like you, that need to get them to acknowledge you in
Yep.
some way, to the word's right on the tip of my tongue, to validate you.
Yes.
It's a need for validation, right? And I could guess that, growing up, you probably had an emotionally distant parent or both emotionally distant parents, and there was no validation, and you were trying to always prove or in some way that you were worthy of it. And I don't mean to say that in a way to diminish it. I'm not saying that like flippantly. I'm just saying this pattern is pretty common, and it's one that can be broken, but you have to acknowledge the false attraction syndrome going on, which is the false attraction towards unavailability.
Yeah, and it's this. I'm tired of chasing guys. Stop. I mean that I
Stop
don't need to
chasing
be
them.
flippant either, right? You just have to break that cycle by not doing that thing isn't good for you anymore. I mean, I know for me, I wasn't necessarily chasing guys, and this I wasn't in hot pursuit, but it took me a while to figure out that if I made the move on the first kiss,
Mhm.
if I was the one who initiated first kiss,
Right.
never ended up well.
Hmm.
I never. And so I remember being on a date with this guy, first date. And I mean, we were in like the most romantic setting,
Yeah.
like looking out at the lights twinkling in LA. Like everybody's seen it in the movies. And oh my gosh, that guy did not, it was like getting later and later and later and later and later and later. And he just didn't kiss me. And finally he kissed me. And because I'm just not that good at editing, I was like blurted out after the kiss, like, oh, thank God, I didn't think you were ever going to do that. And he was sort of glib about it. He said, oh, I was waiting to see if you'd make the first move. And I just said, oh, the sun would have come up first. The sun would have come up first. And that's what I want to tell Michelle. Just stop initiating, stop chasing.
Somebody says this at the bottom. You are so right. I'm afraid to hope, dream, or believe I can have what I want. A wonderful, centered guy who has also done his own work to be in a healthy relationship. So, yeah. I mean, those guys are all over the place.
You're not seeing them.
You're not seeing them. And it's about shifting that story inside of you.
Yeah, you're not seeing them because it's what we call a negative hallucination.
Mm-hmm.
So we all know what a hallucination is. That's imagining something that's not in front of you, like a mirage, right? You're seeing something that's not there. A negative hallucination is not seeing something that's right in front of you. It's just right in front of you and you don't see it because you just don't have the perspective or the right point of view to see that it's right in front of you. You need a new perspective for that to pop, and suddenly, and that's what we're talking about having a real breakthrough. These things are changeable, and we don't mean to be glib about it, but that's what our life's work is, right? Transformation is really our jam, so that people have dramatically different results in a very short amount of time. So we're going to take more questions.
Okay, I'm going to go here with Margot. Margot says, I think I've probably done more workshops in love and dating over the last 10 or so years, and yet I still haven't met my soulmate. I'm a great date and a great catch, if you ask me. I'm sure you are, Margot. And I have no problem meeting men and getting a second date, but it never goes anywhere. What can you tell me that I don't already know?
Well, it's not about telling you something. It's about what we do is we provide a new experience. Mm-hmm. So I kind of feel like a broken record. It's not about telling you something different.
Right.
You can have all of that undigested information in your head and it won't make a difference. I mean, think of it this way. There are literally millions of people all around the globe that have the information that smoking cigarettes will kill them.
Mm-hmm.
And yet they're still smoking those cigarettes. I mean, I had a neighbor who was on oxygen and still smoking cigarettes. So the addiction was so strong. So what I want to say to you, Margot, is you have a bunch of undigested information.
Right.
And it's not useless information. It's helpful. But what you're looking for is that transformation. And so the only thing I have to tell you is come and get that transformation with us, because that's our jam.
Well, I want to say it this way. It's not something that your conscious mind is going to help you with.
Yeah. It's the wrong tool.
It's the wrong tool. And so I think a lot of people misunderstand that. They go out and they read books and they come on to events like this live. and they get
They think they're
programs
going to get
online,
that big
and they
breakthrough
think
that
that,
way.
that
Yeah.
that's going to give them the breakthrough they want. And this is information to prime the pump, right? We
Yeah.
want your conscious brain to understand what's really going on, so that when we then access the subconscious mind, who's really driving all your behavior, then it's like a little switch, and we flip that switch, and your conscious brain already says, this is where we're going, and your subconscious goes, oh, I get it, I'll go that way, and it starts driving your behavior in the direction you want it to. Think about any habit you've ever wanted to change. It takes a lot of willpower
And
and repetition to make that happen.
That's the hard way to create
And
change.
that's a hard road. It's uphill all the way, because your habit, your inclination, your whole being is going, no, but this is what we're comfortable with, and that's what we want to do.
This is what we do here.
And so what we have to do is we have to make what is unknown right now feel comfortable
and known
to your subconscious, comfortable and known.
Yeah.
And that's something that we can't just say, hey, Margot subconscious, are you listening?
No, it's not.
Right.
It doesn't speak English.
Because it doesn't speak English. And so we have to talk.
Or French or
We
Swahili.
have to talk to the subconscious in the language of the subconscious, which is symbol, image, story, and metaphor. And it's deep.
You're doing that thing where you're getting super technical.
Transformative work. Well, because I'm passionate. This is what I'm passionate about.
I
This to me
know.
is like the most important thing to understand about love and relationship, is that more information isn't going to change your results. You've
It's
got to
really
get the
not.
transformation.
I mean,
Okay. All right. I'm going to put that aside. We got more questions.
I adore you, but I have something to say about all that.
Oh, okay, sure.
But I love your passion. I really do. But I think when we get really scientific about this stuff, and people go home and think about it, and they're going to think about it and think about it and think about it, and they don't, so what I want to say is, thinking about it isn't going to change anything either. And all of those people who told you we're going to find the pattern, we're going to talk about it, that won't change it either. So talking about the pattern and identifying the pattern doesn't change the pattern. You have to.
It's an important step.
Yeah. Well, identifying the pattern is, but talking about it isn't.
Right.
We don't talk about the pattern very much at all.
No.
As a matter of fact, we tell our clients, once we know what it is, stop talking about it.
Yeah.
Because every time you talk about it, you ingrain it again, and you ingrain it again,
You
and
reinforce
you ingrain it again. It's like you're digging that pathway, that neural pathway, more and more and more every time you talk about it. So talking about a pattern ingrains the pattern. That does not how you break the pattern. So I'm going to go back to experiential learning. When you have a new experience, then this part is done, right? I mean, we all know that once you know that sensation of how to balance a bicycle, never going to unhave it.
Right.
And that's what we're talking about.
That's what we're talking about.
But I think that people, when they sit there and they think about these things we share, and that thinking about it isn't going to change it. You can watch this, it's going to be online now forever. So you can watch it 700 times, and that's not going to change anything either.
Why don't we tell them what they're watching?
Okay, you go first.
I am Matthew Walters.
And I'm Orna Walters, and this is Love Intervention.
We are here to intervene in your love life to get you off the path towards heartbreak and frustration, and on the path towards that long-lasting, soul-satisfying love you desire.
And when I want to say the intervention tonight is, stop thinking that lasting love is an accident. Stop thinking that you're going to meet that mythical, magical right person, because you must become the right person. The most important relationship you'll ever have is the one with yourself. And when I hear all these people talking about losing hope or trying to prove that they're lovable or valuable in love, that truly breaks my heart, because that's why we're doing this work, to help you all have a new experience in love, so that then you're in the driver's seat of your love life, and you can actually travel to the destination that brings you that joy. Because sharing your life with somebody is awesome, as long as you're selecting an ideal partner. Now, that doesn't mean you're never going to have a disagreement or a conflict or a misunderstanding,
Right.
but it does mean that all of your challenges, oh my gosh, all your sorrow is halved because you're sharing it with someone else, and that all your joy is doubled, because that's what partnering up with the right kind of person, an ideal life partner, doubles your joy and halves your sorrow.
Yeah.
And look, we're not magical, mythical people. We didn't just magically do this. We cobbled together a bunch of stuff and created a system because it was so important for us to realize, oh my gosh, we did something that most people don't. And I want to share this idea about false attraction syndrome that I think we didn't cover, which I think is really important. Because the idea of a false attraction is like a false positive. And I think a lot of times our clients, even in session, they're like, So that feeling I'm looking for isn't really the feeling.
But yeah, we actually had a client tell us that. This was a male client of ours, and
Yeah.
it took him a little while, but he had this experience with this woman who, you know, I'll say it just straight up. When she had a couple drinks in her, she was really open and friendly and
Yeah.
warm. But when she didn't, she was kind of cold. And he really felt a lot of rejection and felt anxious. And he had always interpreted that anxious feeling as love, that this meant he was with his soulmate. If he felt
Yeah.
anxious, he meant this is my soulmate. And at some point, when it really dawned on him, he stopped and he said, "So, wait a minute. So, what you're saying to me is that this is not the right feeling."
Yes. And what we want to say is once he had the new experience in session through our active meditation processes, he then was looking for the feeling that would bring him that what we call soul satisfying love. So he's in a great relationship now where this woman really accepts him as is, and he doesn't have that anxious trying to prove himself thing that's spinning on, spinning and spinning and spinning inside of him. Because really, when it's the right person, you can just relax. You don't have to have all this mishigas in your head about, ooh, what do I do?
Right.
And all of that stuff.
Mhm.
I want to go down because it seems like people are commenting a bit. Where's the comment? Here we go. All right. You want to just go on to the next question here?
Yeah, pick one.
We don't get that many from Matt. I'm gonna read Mark's question.
Okay.
Mark says, my girlfriend and I have been together for 5 years, and things seem to have stalled in our relationship. We used to have fun together and go on adventures, but now we mostly watch TV and hang out at home. I know the pandemic changed things, and I'd like to go back to sharing adventures together. I'm not sure how to bring it up, and I don't want to fight about it, but I think the thrill is gone. Help me get our mojo back. Oh, Mark, don't you understand that the things you don't talk about fester? So when you say, I don't want to, I'm not going to bring it up because I don't want to fight about it.
Right.
The pandemic brought up a lot of, I think things for people because some people are okay with higher risks than others. And that can be in all kinds of things.
Well, I think as well that there was a lot of trauma. We experienced this whole worldwide trauma with this pandemic, with the shutdown. And, I think a lot of people are still wary, are still uncomfortable, even though other people are like risk takers and just want to, throw caution to the wind.
Yeah.
So I don't think Mark is talking about being a risk taker. I think it just feels like, things have stalled between them. And the reason is because what Orna started at, and I think this is true,
isolating.
Right? That I don't want to fight about it. Peace. Sometimes you need to fight about things.
And it's okay.
And it's okay. I'll say it this way. One of the things we've discovered in our relationship is that when we're disconnected, when we don't feel emotionally connected or I don't know how else we'd be connected. When we don't feel emotionally connected, oftentimes it manifests in a fight. And what the fight then does is it brings us back to that emotional connection.
It's an opportunity.
It's an opportunity, right? Now, it's kind of weird that we would have to fight in order to get emotionally connected again, but sometimes that's what's needed because we're stuck, right? We're stuck in our worries, our concerns, our own sort of mishigash in our own heads, and we're not thinking about our partner and how the things we need to do to keep nurturing that connection, because it doesn't just happen. You've got to nurture it every day.
Yeah.
And when you don't nurture it, there's a distance, and that's what sounds like what's going on with Mark and his girlfriend.
Yeah, you're feeling distant.
The distance is because they're not being emotionally intimate.
Because you stopped sharing, and so it only takes one person to change that. So all you have to do is risk and be authentic and speak how you feel. And if you want more help, then reach out to us because we can help you for sure.
Yeah.
And if you don't know how to reach out to us, I can put it in the chat. You can always email us, support@loveonpurpose.com. If you have a question or
something you don't want to put in here, maybe you feel it's a little too private that you don't want to share, or if you're looking for more help, that's a great
I'm going to let you pick one.
Okay. We've done all those.
No, we didn't do that one. You just scroll back that one.
All right, let's do Alma then. I've been dating my guy for nearly a decade. We've been living together for the last 7 years, and generally life is pretty good. I'd like him to propose, but early on we both agreed that marriage wasn't really that important. I've changed my mind, and I like the security of knowing that we're really committed to each other. How do I bring this up without being the one to ask to get married?
Oh, do you want to go first? You want me to go first?
Go first. You seem like you have an idea.
I do, because you can talk about what you want without asking the question.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, again, it requires risk. It requires just asking that you have something you want to bring up, that you're a little nervous to bring up. I'm going to share something. It's kind of a silly side story. It might start that way, but I'm bringing it up for a reason. A few years back, we got a custom couch, right? We got a couch that fit a big sectional, and it was a big deal to, have it fit exactly right, and the styles, and oh my gosh, the endless choosing of everything, and
color, fabric,
all of it, the feet, everything. And we got it delivered, and it was gorgeous. It was like better than we imagined, right?
Mm-hmm.
Better than we imagined. And I remember, I think we'd had the couch, like 2 weeks?
Something like that.
Yeah. And I came home, and the first thing Matthew blurts out is, "I stained the couch." And I was like, "What?" And then he's like, "I know, blah, blah, blah." And it was not pretty. And after we went through that argument and that conflict, and we started the repairing and reconnecting, I looked at him and I said, "Babe, I would have been listening with completely different ears if I would have come through the door, and if you would have just said to me, 'I have something to tell you, and I'm a little nervous to bring it up.'" And he went, "Oh,
yeah,
right," because I was blindsided. Like, I literally came home from like the grocery store, and he's like, "I stained the couch," and I was just like, "What?" Right? I was, whoa, it wasn't pretty. And so those things can be cleaned up. Just because you have a conflict, it doesn't mean it's the wrong person. If you think that, then you have an unrealistic expectation of what it is to share your life with somebody. Please lower your expectation to mere humans, because all of us make mistakes. We always say judgment is the biggest block to love. Perfectionism is a close cousin of judgment. So I think it's judgment and then perfectionism, because if you expect perfection from yourself, you will then expect it from your partner, and nobody could ever meet that goal. So how you bring it up is important, right? I mean, I just gave you a template, and it's recorded. I think you can go back and listen to that.
I think Alma Orna spelled it out for you really nicely, which is, you want to sit down with your guy and you want to say, "Hey, I have something I'd like to talk with you about. It's something I feel a little uncomfortable about. I'm a little nervous about it. I'm a little nervous bringing it up. But I've noticed that, my feelings about something we talked about a long time ago have changed.
Yeah.
And I don't know what to do with that. And I'd like to talk with you about it." Right. And that just opens up a great space. All right. We got a new question here from Joey at the bottom. How do you know if a man is fearful, avoidant, or just emotionally unavailable? I guess my question for you is, what is the difference?
I don't know that. Why does it matter? Do you want to be his therapist, or do you want to be his girlfriend? I mean, I'm confused. Like, if you want to be his lover, then you don't want to play armchair psychologist with this person. I always find these questions so perplexing. And honestly, we don't mean to be harsh. We are really passionate about what we do. And please don't mistake that passion for being harsh. But it's like your mind is spinning. Like, if only I had this diagnosis, then I could somehow something. So what are you really asking? Because I don't feel like this question means anything.
Right. I mean,
so basically, I want to ask you, what is your real question about this guy? Because who cares what his
because fearful and avoidant are all things that cause somebody to be emotionally unavailable. Right? Yeah. There are other causes for why somebody's emotionally unavailable, but those are the underlying, triggers for the symptom of emotional unavailability.
Or he could be an addict. That's the other.
Or he could be an addict.
Common. Any addict is automatically emotionally unavailable.
He could.
So any addict. I'm going to say it again. If you are dating an addict, that human being automatically is emotionally unavailable and can never meet your emotional needs because they're an addict.
Right.
So I don't understand this wanting to diagnose. I don't know that it matters. We're not trained to do a diagnosis on somebody we've never talked to. So we're not going to make a diagnosis. I don't know why that's important. I would love for you to come up with what the real question is. And I want it to be about you because you're here right now and we're here to help you, not somebody who's not here. So I'd love to help you, but give us a question about you. Lucy says, I'm wary of going online. I'm recently divorced woman in her mid-60s. I'm still very active and don't feel or look my age. Yay. I don't want to spend the rest of my life alone. What's the best way to find a nice man who I can talk with? Well, the best way is to go online, but you have to know how to use the tool of online dating.
Yeah, most people don't know how to use the tool, and so they end up running up against a lot of fake profiles and scammers, or they end up in endless text conversations with people, or any other issue that people come up with online dating. It's just because they don't know how to use the tool to get dates and to sift through all the people to find the people who are real people.
Okay, 3 ways to never be scammed online. Number 1, never send anybody you've never met any money, ever. And don't send them an item either. Don't send them an iPhone. Don't send them anything that costs any money. So
Right.
don't send a thing or money to somebody you have never been in physical contact with, looking at them in 3D, not on a video chat, not on a whatever. So do not send or spend money on someone you've never physically met in person with. And even if you've only met 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, don't spend any money on them either.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Number 2, if you ever hear from somebody who is somehow not available for some reason,
They work
get
on
the phone,
an oil rig out in the middle
if
of the
they
ocean.
can never get on a phone or video chat with you, bye-bye. Just like immediately,
Just block them or ignore them or
ignore,
whatever. They're
gone,
not real.
scam. That's number 2. Number 3, never, 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 never invest your heart in a person you have not spent time with physically in person, not on video chat. And that will be a certain amount of time. You're not going to invest after 4 or 5 dates. You're not going to sleep with them after 4 or 5 dates unless you're looking for sex. If you're looking for a relationship, then there's ways to date for a relationship. If you're looking for sex, then go have all the sex you want. Talk to a sexologist about how to have safe sex. But if you want to date for a soul mate, then don't invest your heart in someone you don't know. If you're looking for your lovability to be verified, and Lucy, you say, you're fit, you don't look your age, and you're pretty great, and my wire keeps showing and it's bothering me. I'm going to fix that a little. I'm just going to say you seem like you know that you're a catch. So date like a catch. So date like somebody needs to win your heart. And whether you're male or female, somebody should need to win your heart. And that means they need to earn your trust. And by earning your trust, that means they would meet with you in person. They would talk with you on the phone. They would get on video chat. And they're not going to ask you to spend your money on them. So that's how you avoid being scammed online. If you would like more tips, or you want to bust through some big breakthrough, then please join us for Love on Purpose Mentoring. It's loveonpurposementoring.com.
Mhm.
We only have a few spots left. We are going to start in January. So I think January 14th is the first day. And all the dates and all the information is there. There's a bundle of some excellent bonuses that are also included in joining us. So if you're like, oh, I want to hear all about this, you're not sure, most of the answers are going to be there at the URL I gave out earlier. It's www.loveonpurposementoring.com. We'd love to help you get that big breakthrough so you get unstuck. So you stop being scared to date, or you stop, having that feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm just doomed, or you stop attracting in that same kind of person, or attracted to that same kind of person, or
Exactly.
whatever side of the equation you want to say it on.
Right.
We're here to help you get that long-lasting and soul-satisfying love. One of our credentials, I think, is why we do this, and this is our life's work. Like, we didn't just start doing this because the pandemic happened. We've been at this since 2009. So if you didn't know that, now you do. It's been well over a decade. We've literally helped thousands of people. And I love this time of year because we get all these holiday cards from people sharing with pictures of their families growing, and birthdays and anniversaries and engagements and weddings. And so this is our life's work. I mean, this is the thing that gets us out of bed every morning. I just really want you to understand that getting the love you want is about really having that self-mastery so that you can choose and select an ideal life partner, and that you're not just going with chemistry, although you can't forego chemistry. That's part of the equation.
Right. So I want to thank everybody for joining us for Love Intervention. We are here every 2 weeks to help you get off the path of heartbreak and on the path to long-lasting love. I want to thank our team for helping us out on the
Yes.
back end.
Thank you.
We're going to be back in 2 weeks on December 20th
Yes.
at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. And once again, you can catch us on Facebook. You can catch us on YouTube if you're not here with the live stream.
And thank you for joining us. We'll talk to you in 2 weeks.
Bye.